here him on purpose, right? You didn't just wander by and drop in. You came here on purpose. You'd be glad to know that his nursery won the 2008 Innovator Award, and he said primarily for his approach to organic gardening. I'm sure he'll tell you more about it. John Dromgoole is the host of The Natural Gardener on KLBJ in Austin. He's the founder of Ladybug Natural Brands, and they have a big booth out here. You really ought to check that out. I can tell you a story that he may not tell you. I was doing a book signing out at one of the nurseries out here by Bernie, and there was a guy there who used to supply something to all the places around this part of the state that made compost. And so I asked him, I said, okay, then who makes the best compost? He said, no doubt, Ladybug. And I'm sure he'll tell you more about that if you'll ask. So if you want to buy the best compost there is, I'm sure he'll fix you up right out there. He's the owner of the Natural Gardening Nursery and Garden Center in Austin. He's regularly featured on the Central Texas Gardener on KLRN and other Texas broadcasting stations, public PBS stations. Please turn off your cell phones, please.
Okay.
And she'll turn hers off as soon as she gets off the phone. So, without further ado, I give you John Dromgoole.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me back. I'm surprised every year that actually I get invited back after the last year, you know. So I appreciate y'all coming in for a little while. I'm going to do a new talk today. I found something that is...
I'll give you a call before I get there.
I'll wait till she finishes.
I gotta get up.
Okay, so I'm going to do a new talk this afternoon. I always talk about put this much compost out there and how to make compost and, you know, all about organic gardening, which you all have heard a lot from Bob and Howard, and maybe you can't hear enough of it. I certainly enjoy new information about organics. But they asked me to kind of take a different approach today, and so I did. I put together a program that I think is really important, really, really important. And this is probably one of the more important programs I've done, other than in the very beginning many years ago to talk about organics before too many people were talking about it except for Malcolm Beck, one of the early pioneers that you all are familiar with. But things have changed, you know, over these years. I've been on the radio for 27 years, and we just kind of talked about things. But I've noticed a change out there. And the change is, I can grow citrus outside in Austin now. You never could before. I've seen some grapefruit trees that are 2 stories tall. I'm growing olives now at the store. These are things we didn't do just a few years ago, you know. And you all may have noticed some changes in your garden too over this time. And so that's kind of the topic today. The topic is The Gardener's Guide to Global Warming. I want to thank the National Wildlife Federation and also the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, and there's other groups that help with information for this little show. So instead of me standing up here like I normally do and wave my arms and try to get a message through, I'm going to sit down with you, and I hope you enjoy this. The first part's a little heavy, but we're going to get to the solutions also. I wouldn't start off with anything other than the facts here today. I would also like, in case we're running out of time at the end, to invite you to come up and visit us in Austin. It probably costs $50 worth of gas, where it used to be just $8 or $9. I'm sorry about that, but we're in South Austin, so you don't have to get into that mess. And don't take I-35. Take 281 and then come up from Blanco, and it'll be a short drive. So let's kind of get going here, and then if there's questions, we'll try to answer them at the end. I know there's a 2 o'clock round table, and maybe there'll be much more information about organics right there. But I think this is the most important thing that's made a change for me, and we're going to kind of visit it this afternoon a little bit. So don't get discouraged. I will get to the solutions. So the challenges and the solutions that we have coming towards us. Can we turn the front lights off? Or? Thank you. So here's some information that you might not know, and it's Rip Van Winkle that's here, and is just now waking up. Things have changed since you fell asleep. We know this, and it's important to remind ourselves that the Earth is warming. The climate is actually changing. It's on the front page of every magazine and every newspaper in the country. These changes are already affecting the natural systems, and human activities the major cause of this. What's happening is the pollution that we're creating, the Earth used to just pass it through the upper layer, the heat would leave, but now the heat is beginning to collect on the planet. And it's because of carbon dioxide that's coming from fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, methane from the cattle out in the hillsides. And so this is part of the problem. We're seeing a buildup of gases in the environment that are causing this rise in the temperature. So what we're seeing here is a little bit of a history, and the history is that the current concentration is 379. If nothing is done to slow the greenhouse gas emissions, the CO2 concentration is projected to be 500 to 950. This is a tremendous change going on here. You can see the chart on the left and the dramatic change that will occur over the next 100 years. Some of us aren't going to be here. I'm not going to be here. But my great-grandchildren will be here. And I don't want them to look back at us and say, what the hell were these people thinking? Look how they left this planet. You know, we had a nice one, I remember in the 50s. It was Father Knows Best, you know. It was a beautiful place. And Texas is the biggest polluter. Texas is the biggest polluter in the country. And if Texas were its own independent country, we'd be third in the world. So what we're going to see is more frequent and severe extreme weather events, including droughts, floods, and heat waves. You know, it's a dramatic change. An increase in the intensity, duration, and destructiveness of hurricanes. Now, we've seen that already. And of course, the sea level is slowly rising, and we're losing the wetlands. Part of the big problem with Katrina was the wetlands are gone from around New Orleans that used to protect it. So an intergovernmental panel on climate change was organized, and this is their 2007 report, that we will be going up in temperature 4 to 11 degrees by 2100. You can imagine how hot it gets here, and then add another 5 to 10 degrees to the San Antonio area. It'll be unbearable. So right now, in the last century, the temperature went up 1.3. So this is going to be a dramatic change in the next one. And the sea level is going to rise 10 to 23 inches and maybe more by that time. And so in the last century, it already went up 7 inches. This is Texas. This is what's going to happen to Texas. In the upper left in the panhandle, we'll see much drier conditions. And like last spring, wetter winters and drier summers. And to the left of us, it's already going to happen this year, extreme drought. And then we're going to see winter flooding and warmer temperatures over in the East Texas area, and the sea level is going to rise. The temperature increases also will be in our area 7 degrees, 8 degrees in others. You can see around the country all the way in the north an 8-degree rise also. Precipitation changes will go down 5% here, 10% in the west. It's already extremely dry. It'll increase in other areas. There's the Rio Grande. It doesn't make it to the Gulf anymore. There's so little water in it that the Rio Grande no longer empties into the Gulf. I'm sure during flood periods, but not at this time. This is in Austin last year, probably the same thing around here. It was 2006 actually. And look at the drop in water during that season.